Welcome to a quick overview of the Battle of Sagrajas, 1086 AD. This is going to be a Kriegspiel via the IKS group on behalf of them, uh, taking place via their Discord server, and I'll put that information as a comment later. Just kind of give you an idea what the intention is here. We're going to try to do a double-blind medieval Iberian Peninsula battle from the year 1086, of course, based off of the Battle of Sagrajas, which includes Yusuf ibn Tashfin and Al-Mutamid ibn Abad of the Almoravid dynasty, the caliphate that basically had reconquered the Andalusian Peninsula, Al-Andalus, in that late 11th century. Now over here on the Christian forces, if you will, the Castilian forces, we have King Alfonso VI and Alvar Fanez, and these are roughly the same types of troops here. We'll do just a quick rough overview of the troops used, and then we'll go over the order of battle just a little bit, and maybe depict a couple, maybe just one or two turns. We'll see how things go here. Generally, these divisions, there are two divisions on each side. Each one has about 12 elements. This was originally based off of a big battle, big base DBA scenario, battle of Sagrajas, and as you can see, here's just a rough estimate of the original battle. I'll put this link as a comment so you can look at it later. But roughly, the Muslim order of battle, the Almoravid battle plan included a fanatic Berber army from in DBA terminology. Includes Berber cavalry, 3 Berber infantry, 3 Hintata spearmen, 3 Berber javelin men, I think is how I described it over here. Let's take a quick look at it from the tabletop simulator perspective. Here's Yusuf ibn Tashfin himself, the Berber cavalry, the Berber javelin men, kind of light infantry spearmen, Intata spearmen, which are a little bit more armored, Berber archers, and camelry, which is actually an irregular mounted unit. These are irregular mounted units. They're a little bit finicky, or a little bit ornery, I guess would be the way to put it. The other division of the Almoravid army is based on Al-Mutamid ibn Abad. He's got 2 Arab cavalry units, 2 Andalusian spearmen, 6 Berber javelin men, and 2 horse archer units or elements. If we're going to use DBA terminology, it would be elements. But what I'm doing is basically the equivalent of a free Kriegspiel on top of a game that I had actually worked with a friend of mine, Alex Macris. He's local here in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, and he wrote this lovely, basically an extension to the Adventure Conqueror King system, which is in effect a entirely revised rules cyclopedia D&D, if you will. But Alex has a deep background in DBA, DBM, and many other wargaming influences. Let me show you what the influences are. The inspirations were, as we can see here, try to get in here so I don't show all the text, but chainmail, great battles, DBA, of course, Artie Conniff's Amrati, and Borg's Battle Lore, amongst others, right? And you'll see how it all comes together. It's a really, really good combination. I happen to have helped a little bit on playtesting. He gave me a development credit. So that's probably one of the only published anything that has my name on it, or in it. Um, it's a great game. Totally recommend it. There is a battles section, but there's also a what's really cool is it also has a campaigns rule set, which helps you track entire domains worth or domain worth counties, etc., principalities, dukedoms, whatever level. It really scales extremely well. One thing Alex is very good at is he's very good at market analysis, if you will, from a D&D perspective. It's very interesting. He has a very much an accountant's mind almost. Um, really good at the minutia of markets and upkeep of troops and so forth. Like, we're going to use that for here, but I might use that on the side in the future. But great game, totally recommend it. Entirely recommend the D&D core set of it, which is the Axe system, or ACKS system, the Axe role playing game. It's a great game. But in particular, we're using this as a war game. And what's really cool is there's also a Guns of War expansion to the system as well, which allowed me in the past to utilize this system for Italian wars, which I do plan on doing at some point. Battle of Fornovo, excuse me, with Charles attempting to escape the Holy League, etc. So many possibilities here, right? Great game. All right, so we will just take a look at how we would order a division in a given turn. We might even, just for the sake of kind of speeding things up, if you will, why don't we just bring all these up a little bit for the sake of tutorialness. Okay. Not perfect, of course, but let's just get them a little bit closer so we can get into some engagement. All right. So behind the scenes, what the intention is that each player will submit their orders on an order sheet. So this is the order sheet for Yusuf Ibn Tashfin. It's got all his units. What we would do on each turn is basically just copy, paste, and make it turn 2. Might be a little bit easier way to do this for the real game, but this is the intention. You have pretty fine control over movement in the game. If somebody wants to kind of shortcut a little bit and give me a little bit more of a general special note, like for example, if they wanted to for the 3 Berbers in this oops, the wrong one. Oh, look at the right army. Al-Mutamid. Oop. Let's fix that. Alright. Let's go here. So let's just take a look at these 2 Arab cavalry units or elements here. So the intention is that we will provide the commander with basically a from the saddle, or at least roughly from the saddle. We're going to give him a little bit of leeway. We're not going to scourge a war 1 degree them. But this is what you're going to see as the commander, as this commander. This is what you'll see. We'll give a couple of viewpoints, maybe from the straight, from the right to the right, and to the left, just so they have an idea of what they would see within their movement of their head, if you will. We don't want to go overboard. I might even cut it down to like front right, and then front left, etc., like this. Okay, but that's all you will see. So it's very much, I think, to the benefit of the commander if they would take a piece of paper or whatever they want to use, and kind of draw out just very plainly where their units are relative to each other, just for the sake of at least being able to understand where they want to be, where they want to order them to, etc. Alright, so we're just going to order a few units here from the perspective of Mutamid ibn Rabat. We'll move their cavalry and maybe their horse archers to kind of show you what how loose mounted works a little bit. We're going up against some spearmen up here, some foreign crusaders, general's bodyguard. We probably want to avoid the punch of these guys, but we're not going to get too much into tactics here. We're just going to kind of go a little bit into execution. So, again, as this commander, you're only going to be able to see what you would roughly see. We're going to give a little bit of leeway from the saddle, right? So, it's pretty difficult. It's a lot different than the eagle eye view. So let's just kind of order at least these two and these two. I don't know. Let's just say he wants to get in there and just kind of hit him or pepper him a little bit. He kind of wants to charge here, maybe a little bit. Just not. Again, we're not going for tactics here. This is probably very bad tactics. But let's go ahead and order these Arab cavalrymen, and let's go do that. So there's three different things you can do. You can do a march, you can do a hustle, or you can do a charge. Now, what are the main differences in that? The main differences are, first of all, how far you can go, of course. And if you look at those units, let's look at our cavalry. They can go 6 inches, up to 6 inches, up to 12 inches, up to 18 inches. Okay. Now, you might be tempted to charge, and we might even be willing to do that here because we got them right in our sights there. We might as well try that here in a moment. Alright, so one thing to call out is that these Arab cavalrymen are they're based off of like a medium cavalry unit, and they don't have hooved charge bonuses. Now, these heavy, stocky Castilian King Alfonso VI's order of battle, they have like a general's bodyguard. So not only would they attack with lance and shield, but they also get this wonderful bonus of 3 hooven attacks at a very reasonable to hit rate. I don't want to get too deep into the numeric quantities here, but as you can probably figure out, this is basically a 2-hit. A couple other things to notice is that there's unit AC. So, in effect, anything you see here is basically the 2-hit of an armor class 0. So yes, it's Thaco. Damn it, it's Thaco. I don't care what you think of Thaco. I'm just kidding. But it's Thaco, right? So, but it's a lot more streamlined in the fact that it's positive to it. So, if this unit, these Hidalgos 1 unit, it's a formed foot unit. These are its movements. If it's trying to, let's just say it was going against this unit or a unit with actually, let's go ahead and say, let's say they were going against the Mutamid's cavalry here. Their AC is 4. So if Alfonso's Hidalgos were trying to attack them for some reason, they would need an 11 plus, but you have to add in the AC of the target. So you'd add in 4, so you need a 15 or higher to hit them, right? It's pretty straightforward. You just add it to that number, and that becomes your target. It's pretty straightforward. Again, though, this is Kriegspiel format, so it's there's some freedom here for me to judge based on what you tell me they're going to do. If you tell me they're going to try to do some sort of special maneuvering, if you tell me they're going to lay down, oil or whatever the heck, anything you can think of, you're going to pepper them with. I have no idea. Come up with whatever you want to, and it may have a reasonable effect, or at least there might be a probability of a reasonable effect to the positive as an advantage or a disadvantage. It could even force, like in newer D&D terms, an advantage or disadvantage on the rolling of the hits and so forth. Whatever, you never know. You should try to convince me that what you're asking your units to do, or even individual captains or lieutenants to do. Now, one thing I have not depicted yet on these order of battles is whether or not any of these have lieutenants. I would think that these Hidalgo units probably have lieutenants, which are local commanders, basically localized commanders on the units. I can give you a better idea what that means here in a moment. when we start activating. Alright, so this commander, let's go look at that guy's information here. Alright, again, a lot of this stuff is behind the scenes. You really kind of don't need to worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. The less you worry about it and the more you concentrate on just kind of role playing yourself and your units, I think you'll do better. Just kind of concentrate on what you're intending to do. Don't worry about the particulars, but I do want to kind of give you an idea of how it works, just from a medieval physics perspective, if you will. All right. So a few things about the leaders and how I'm tracking it as a judge and how the game kind of generally tracks it. There's a leadership ability, which is effectively a activation point system. So what I was going to use are these little go marbles. Let's see how many we got. I think that's 7 right there. Okay. So in effect, if the leadership ability is 7, then they have 7 activation points to use on a given turn. Okay. And again, based on what you ask them to do or what you say they're doing, occasionally I might give them a boost based on whatever, some sort of recent victory within the battle. Who knows? You don't know. I'm going to judge it however I want to reasonably judge it, right? But generally speaking, the core physics of it is the fact that you need to activate your units. So everybody would be doing this at the same time. So in effect, as you input orders, I'm going to interpret the orders in the order that you present it in. So for example, if you really wanted the bowmen to do their thing, right, be kind of somewhat guaranteed, not always guaranteed, but a pretty good chance that they will act according to what your orders are, I would put them up top as kind of like your precedence. Also, what would help is moving your units near the units that you definitely want to have have their orders executed, etc. But in extremely general terms, based on just the rules that I'm kind of using as a guide, you would give an activation point for any units that you wanted to activate that turn. For example's sake, let's just say all of these were disordered, and I think on my side, if anything, I actually have some markers for all this stuff, but I might just use the text system and TTS to kind of keep track of things. But let's just say all these are disordered. How pray tell would they have been disordered? They would have been, if they were hit by an attack, they can be disordered. If they charge, they're immediately disordered. There's certain other rules, but again, I don't want to split the hairs on that. Let's just say again, this is just really for illustration. All right, so what the heck does that mean from an activation perspective? That would mean that you have to actually spend or expend more of your leadership influence to get them to actually move and do something, right? So as you can see, we've run out of influence. So this guy is not going to do his thing. So he's a little bit SOL over here in the fact that this guy is only going to activate. Things like that. So just kind of the closer you do need to be within a certain radius. I think I gave most of these guys a radius of 8 inches. Let's kind of make sure that that's actually realistic. I might have to mess with some of this stuff. Yeah. I might have to extend that a little bit just based on how many units are involved in this order of battle. I might have to extend it to 12 inches maybe. But they have to the commander, Al-Mutamid, has to stay within a zone of control in order for that to only cost even that. If they were out of range, let's just say he was over here and he's like well out of range. Let's just say the command radius was 12 inches. He's well out of range to be able to influence these units. These actually would cost 3 to move, so I'd end up having to have used that there. There was absolutely no chance. So again, any disordered token or attribute for the unit makes it cost more influence to move. Also, being out of command radius costs more to move. So if these guys ended up, way over here, they're not gonna they're gonna be a little bit more expensive to activate. Very similar to other systems out there. I like this system because it's just pretty simple, and it's really kind of neat because you have a good amount of granularity, a good amount of control from a design perspective as far as allowing for like really good commanders or mediocre commanders or really crappy commanders or whatever, right? So there's a little bit of game in there, right? It's okay to be gamey. So that's how all that works. So out of all that, let's just say we only had enough to activate Arab Cav 1, 2, and this Horse Archer. Let's take a look at the range of these guys for their. So what you do is you activate it, and they can move, then attack. Basically, you move and engage and attack in a melee, or you move up to a certain amount and can fire. Now, I believe you can only move up to your march and still be able to do missile fire. Let's take a quick look at that. Give me a moment. Just want to make sure. If you're using arbalists or crossbows, the attacker must have stood fast during its. Otherwise, the attacker must have either stood fast or marched. Units that hustled or charged during their movement may never declare missile attacks. The attacker must not be threatened or by any enemy units. So let's look at this. So they're not threatened. They can probably fire from here. I don't know what the distance is here, but we might move them a march distance. This is about 20 inches. Let's go look at the unit to see what the range is for their. Or let's see what type of. Wait, we're looking at the wrong darn thing. Okay, so this would be the horse archers here. And that is 2 composite bows. So we need to look up what the range is on the composite bows. Here we go. Again, I'll be doing all this behind the scenes during the real game. Range versus mounted is 6, which actually we double because this was originally designed for hex. We double this for inches, so 12 inches. So they only have a range up to about here with their composite bows. So we're going to have to try to get in range. Now, what is their march rate? Can we hit them if we use our march rate? Horse Archer's march rate is 8 inches. Let's take these guys and move them. About there, I think I got it. Now for a charge, let's go look at that. I don't think you're even able to rotate at the start. Let me just double check that. It's been a while since I've played these underlying rules. Where? Should have this memorized, but sorry. Here we go. No facing changes. Actually, we're just using march, so we can actually do any number of facing changes. We can kind of move and change and blah blah blah. So we can go basically boo 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 move, etc. So we're good there. Let's just double check that we are within the 12 inches. Not quite. I'm gonna say we are. We're just right on the edge. I think we are. Right. Let's just say we are. All right. So these guys basically used a march rate. We kind of fudged it just a little bit for example's sake. they're within missile range of firing on these foreign crusaders. So how the hell do I judge that? I would look at, excuse my cursing, I would basically just look at their composite bow, which is 11 plus. That's to go against an armor class of 0. So I am firing on a unit that has an armor class. These foreign crusaders are probably not the best target. Let's just say this is King Alfonso's foreign crusaders. They have an AC of 6. Yuck. Probably not the best target, right? But I'm going to show you. What I'll do is we'll kind of fudge things here, and I'll move him close enough to fire on the spearmen or something like that, just for an example's sake. Okay. So these guys have an armor class of 6, so that makes it a lot more difficult. Where are you, horse archers? Wait, wrong one. Sorry. So 11, and then it was 5 for the. No, 6. Oof. So 17 plus. I need 17 plus on D20s. So we'll see if either of these. So they basically, what the rule system does is it kind of extrapolates how many attacks can happen within a certain time period that they consider to be a turn. Let's roll these, see if we get anything. Yeah, we got one. Ooh, almost got 2. So we definitely scored a hit. We scored a ranged hit from these horse archers into these foreign crusaders. Now we would probably just put something on here just for the sake of visible damage. Now later on at the end of the turn, I would give them this view, which just barely kind of shows them that the guy is a little damaged, right? I think I'll be kind of fair to both sides and give them a little clue, but right now, it's a little difficult to see what the heck's going on. These guys can move up to 12 inches. They're supposed to attach. If they do attach, they can influence the morale, the shock rolls of that particular unit. And of course, they want to move around so that they can get within a zone of control to kind of help the influence and all that jazz I already spoke of. But literally, in this Kriegspiel, medieval Iberia, there's good. You might need to move around just to see anything, because I'm going to be giving you some pot shot views of what you see, not eagle eye like this, right? So keep that in mind. So of course, if for some reason these guys were over here and I had fired on these spearmen, it would have been a lot simpler to get a hit on them, because the AC would have been. Is that the special ones? Yes, it is the special spearmen, as I call them. They still have an AC of 5, so it's not that much better. So they would have had to have 16s instead. Let's see if they would have hit them. No, yep, they would have got one hit too. So that would have been a hit on them. So just kind of give you an idea that the AC does matter. There are certain units that are really good at. They actually can get a rate of 3 attempts per. There aren't that. I don't think there are any in these orders of battle, but most of them just can attack twice. Basically, they have in effect the equivalent of 5th edition D&D advantage, if you will. That's the name of the game as far as just how the battles go, or the adjudication of the rule of the attacks and so forth. Now, one really cool thing that loose mounted. Let me see if these guys are loose mounted. I think they are. Yeah, the horse archers are the only loose mounted. So what's really cool is if, let's say these guys were here, and they happen to be kind of close enough for the javelin or the spears. Let's go see what the spear range is. That's the one thing I don't have everything memorized as far as where it's at in this. Oh, there it is. Spear or javelin range versus mounted is still only 4 inches, double that. So let's just say, for example's sake, these guys are loose mounted, so they kind of have a special rule or special judgment, if you will, that anybody that's loose mounted or loose foot has the ability to withdraw as long as they're not in a disordered fashion. If this guy happened to throw javelins at this guy and score enough to have been able to hit, they can actually withdraw 2 inches per potential damage and basically skirt taking any damage. It's awesome. So like let's just say they would have taken 3, they could skirt. I can't remember the exact distance. I think it's their marching rate. They can go backwards. But that's the equivalent of basically a withdrawal for. Now the key to that is that, especially I think if it's melee, they have to be faster. So again, loose mounted in particular, really powerful in this judgment, this game, because they are usually faster than the units that they're kind of evading, if you will. If you happen to be equal, then it wouldn't count. You wouldn't be able to avoid the damage, the casualties, if you will. That's that. I'm trying to think of anything else I wanted to tell you. Oh, I did want to kind of say. So let's look at those guys again. Let's use these horse archers from a movement perspective. Let's just say we wanted to just hustle instead of. First of all, they got a really good movement as well. They're really fast, and that's why they can avoid damage from units that they're faster than. So let's just say they wanted to hustle. So they got up to 16 inches worth of movement in that regards. Now the reason you want to possibly avoid charging is that charging automatically makes you disordered. Now you can, if you were way, let's just say it's actually possibly advantageous to. This is almost the equivalent of a. I'm trying to figure out. Remember the term in Blucher and other rule system. Basically, if I wanted to go 24 inches, I could go 24 inches, but then I would immediately be disordered. Now, what does disorder do? It takes more to activate, so it kind of takes more influence from the generals or the commanders to get these guys back into order. So it's a really cool system. So that's the difference between a charge, which is 24, and of course, also with a charge, you have to go absolutely straight. You cannot change at the beginning. You cannot change your direction at the beginning, nor at any time during it. So you basically have to be pointed exactly the way you want to, and then you can charge. Now, do you have to charge your whole movement? No. And would you hit somebody at times? Yes. So let's say, for example, this guy was charging here. He could charge, but really the only reason he would want to do that is if he was a heavy enough or an impact unit, an impact heavy cav. Where do we have some heavy cav? We got some heavy cavs over here, the Foreign Crusaders. So let's why don't we switch the script on this? So we're taking the point of view of the Castilians here under Alfonso. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's just say this guy wanted to charge. Now, he definitely could do it. This is kind of a weird situation here. I think I would probably have to make him pick. I think I would judge it as having to pick one of them. So he can do this. Now, what's really cool about that is not only. Let's go look. Not only does he get his what guys that the Foreign Crusaders. Not only does he get his lance and shield, but he also gets charges, and those are really easy to hit too. So he gets 2d20 for his lance and shield. Let's go see what that does. So he gets 2 hits for that, but then he rolls 3 of these bad boys, and if he gets an 8 or better, he gets another hit. So oh my God, he didn't. That's probably the worst roll you could ever make. But as you can imagine, he got 2 hits, but that could have been devastating. That one charge almost annihilated the unit. But what's another thing is, let's just say for example's sake, they got 4 hits on him. Still a hit marker right here. We can use that here. 1, 2, three, four. They got hit real bad. Um, where did it end up? What the heck? Here, there we go. Okay, so there's 4 hits on that bad boy, and that's more than 50% of the original HP or hit points on this unit. Most units have 6 hit points to mark casualty, which is an amalgamation of morale and deaths and injuries, etc. Um, so what this causes is this causes a shock roll, and I will just show you just very simply. And this is probably the last thing I'm going to show for tonight. Oh, there it is right there. So there's a shock roll involved. You do 2d6. Let's just roll and see what happens. I think he rolled pretty well. 5 and a 6. That's a really good roll. I think no matter what, he'll stand for him. But things that modify it are whether an officer is attached to the unit. So that's why your commanders or your generals or units that have a lieutenant. Some units are well trained. For example, Roman centurions, Swiss mercenaries during the Battle for Nova, Italian Wars period. Any unit that's like extremely well trained and trains often or with good regularity would more than likely have the equivalent of a lieutenant, basically a self-ordering functionality. Some units, even like the Swiss mercenaries that I already mentioned from the Battle for Nova and other late Ren or mid Ren battles, they're actually self-activating too. They don't even need a commander. They basically just operate on their own. Really cool game. What was I getting at there? Okay. So they individually have morale modifiers, so in other words, if King Alfonso was directly attached, and you have to declare that in your orders, if he's directly attached to that unit or back, or the one that's being hit, he can add his morale adjustment to it. And then, of course, you have whether or not it was disordered, whether it had taken damage of 50% or more. This is kind of a weird one because it has to be that anyway, or usually. Oh well, there's other conditions. This system also supports fantasy battles. So if you had been hit by magic, you would have had to do it even if you weren't more than half. But so as you can see, like if you were already, so the thing to do is try to hit somebody really hard once they're disordered. If they're disordered, they're already damaged, or you're going to give them enough damage to get below that 50%, and they're threatened on their flanks or anything like this. Man, you can absolutely rout the heck out of units if you. Not only did we cause extreme amount of a casualty, but there's a pretty good chance that we make them do any number of recoil, etc. So recoil is that they retreat 2 inches back. Basically, they just recoil back. Stand firm is obviously standing firm. Retreating. Unit can retreat. How many? Retreating. If target must retreat, result of the retreat. Okay. I guess you go 4 inches or so. Yeah, the attacker may advance into it. Why am I not seeing the other? Route. Unit completely routes off the battle map. Flee. The unit changes its facing towards its edge and retreats a number of hexes, or in this case inches, to its hustling movement. So they would hustle back at whatever their hustle movement is. That's the basics. Now again, the thing to keep in mind is just tell me what you want to do. Be as clear as possible as to what your intentions are. I definitely recommend some form of. I'd keep some scrap paper nearby. Make a note of all your units. Kind of get a good idea per turn. you might even want to just keep a good amount, like a notebook, because you could even do it by like the letters, like H1, H2, H3 for these hidalgos, and just kind of put them where you generally are going to have them. Just keep an idea where you want to get them, because again, what you're going to be given is the point of view of the commander. You're not going to be given. This guy has skulls on his saddle. I just realized. Um, I mean, this is what you're going to see. You're not going to see. Even if I'm looking up here, let's just say you just ordered these foreign crusaders to charge. You really kind of you still you're not going to actually see the damage unless somehow these crusaders send a message back to you, which they're not gonna damn well not gonna do in the middle of battle, right? So if they're successful and then they somehow retreat and maybe send you a quick message, or then you might even, let's just say even later, if they happen to retreat, you might be able to see that unit's pretty darn damaged, but you're kind of there's a little bit of guessing game in here, and it's the Kriegspiel added layer to this. I'm really excited to try this out because I really kind of want to kind of know how much that affects it. It could be quite substantial as far as your ability to know exactly the nature. I mean, so in other words, you're going to be able to see that yeah, that guy got damaged, but I'm not going to tell you exactly how much he got damaged. I will do some sort of kind of visual aid, but it might be blocked visually, right? And then especially if stuff's happening behind a hill, you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know anything. You might need to get your butt over there to see what the heck's going on, or send a messenger, send a rider. I'm going to give you some flexibility in how to handle that. I'm also going to give each side up to I think 3 horn/trumpet signals, so you can get with your fellow commanders, come up with some sort of, if you have like a plan A, a plan B, or a plan C, or something weird, or whatever. You can come up with your own special signals. You can also physically send a messenger, but there will be a chance if you send a messenger that they might die. It might not be a huge chance, but if you're gonna send a messenger in the front, I'm gonna have to judge based on who you're trying to get a good message to. Or primarily you're probably getting messages to one another. I mean, technically you could probably even stay pretty close to each other, but if you stay too close to each other, you're not close to your troops, and you're not giving them your influence, right? Either you're not attached to somebody trying to help them, get over the wall or whatever. I mean, you need to pay attention to your division. So there are going to be probably times when you need to send a quick envoy, if you will, to a squire or whoever on foot or horse, mounted to your fellow commanders, and then you can imagine if this was like a large battle with multiple commanders. Typical would be 3 commanders and then a commander in charge, or a general. The way that the underlying system works, the domains of war, there usually is a general, and then these guys are commanders, and then any individual unit that has uh, we would possibly use little figures for lieutenants too, but those might not be players, unless you have 50,000 players, which would just cause too much umpiring need. Here I just had depicted a fortified camp, which might be a little bit of an extra bonus for the um, amount of it. Yeah, um, the Andalusian troops, the Moors, to take as a little bit of a bonus, kind of give them a little bonus edge here, a little role playing edge. That's it. It takes if you try to use. There's not a lot of terrain on this one in particular. If we eventually do a larger battle, I might add a little bit more, but you can hide your troops behind them. I would try to judge it as much as I can. If you hide behind there, you're hidden. I might give a little leeway, a certain amount of leeway, to how many units you could keep hidden off map and bring at a specified time, or even bring based upon a trumpet/horn communication or messenger. So I look forward to it. I hope you do too, and I will talk to you all soon.